Greetings everyone. On the bench today is this LED light fixture. Pulled it out of the ceiling there. It's developed an odd problem. When I turn the light on, it doesn't come on until maybe like 25 seconds or so. So I hooked it up to the Variac here and turn it on. See what happens. Okay, power's on and nothing. So we'll just wait for a little bit here and see what happens. Nope, 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 nope. Nope. Hey, are we going to work here? Or... It's turned on. We got the wires connected. Maybe it died for good. Well, I'll stop here and just let it sit. See if it comes on. Okay, it turned on just after I stopped recording, of course. Now the thing is, if I turn it off and turn it back on again, it'll be fine. See, it comes right back. Only when it sits for a while will it not turn on right away. Almost seems like it's a capacitor. Maybe it's leaky or something. Maybe in the sometimes these drivers have a bootstrap circuit, and the capacitor, if it's malfunctioning in that circuit, I don't know, I'm just guessing. But see, once it comes on, then it'll work. But if I leave it turned off for a couple hours and then turn it on, then it'll start delaying again. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can open this driver. Hopefully it's not potted, and I can get to the components and test them perhaps, and maybe find a bad component. Well, that was easy enough to open. And that resistor looks pretty baked. And I put my piece of paper back up. There we go. Listen to it. It's whining. But will it turn on? It's not starting. I just hear like a whine. Right here is electrolytic, and right there are the two pins. And when I measure it, there's voltage on it. There's about 10 volts, and it slowly discharges. So I wonder if that capacitor is, it's probably okay since it's holding a charge with the power off. So maybe it's something else. I guess I'll check a few components and see if I can find anything interesting. Well, I probed around and I'm not seeing any problems yet. But you know, when you measure in circuit, sometimes you cannot get proper readings with a multimeter, because there could be a device in parallel with the capacitor you're testing or the resistor, and you're not seeing the correct values. But I can't really test that capacitor that I'm suspecting. Now this is a high power factor type circuit. There's no electrolytics on the input side. There's just a small one here, which is across a couple pins on this chip. You can see the traces a little bit. Of course, it's one of these chips Chino chips you can't get data sheets on. And filter caps on the output side. So yeah, I'm going to examine this capacitor closer. I can't get a reading with the meter though. Now there's another channel called Shango66. He fixes vintage, or resurrects, I guess, sometimes repairs vintage electronics. He has this pretty neat idea. He takes an audio amplifier and uses it to test capacitors in circuit. So he puts the capacitor across the output, well, I should say in series with the output in the speaker. And he can test capacitors in circuit. So let me give you an example here. For an example here, we'll test this 1000 microfarad cap. And it sounds good because I can hear bass. Of course, you can't really determine the value, but it's just a quick go, no-go test. Here's a 1 microfarad. Of course, all you hear is the high frequencies because it is going to block the bass because it's such a low value. You can also tell if a low value capacitor is leaky because you would hear some of the bass coming through. And again, it depends on how leaky it is. It's not a super accurate test, but it just lets you know if the capacitor is working or not. Now there's some very important things you have to do. Number one, you want to keep the audio signal low because you don't want to forward bias any silicon gates in the circuit, so you want to keep the audio signal well under 1 volt. Also, when doing that, it keeps the current low so you don't damage components. Okay, with power turned off and make sure capacitors are discharged, I'm testing capacitors. I'm on that one capacitor there. It's supposed to be 100 microfarads. And it sounds really tinny like that 1 microfarad. That tells me that capacitor is bad. I can hear a little bit of crackle noise as well. I think we might be triggering or forward biasing some silicon in there a little bit inside that chip. But still, if that capacitor was good, it would be passing the signal. So I'm going to see if I can desolder that capacitor and test it. Yeah, that cap's bad. Should be hearing some more out of that. And see what the meter has to say about it. Got the furnace running in the background. So, apologies for that. I don't know how I'm going to get this in the shot. I don't have a good setup here for testing components on camera. Let me see what I can do here. As long as I keep my finger off of one of the terminals. Just won't give me any reading. Nothing. Huh, that's weird. Usually you get some low value, but maybe it's slightly leaky as well. Not enough to let the audio through, but well, it's bad, so let's find a replacement. Okay, I found this capacitor. Unfortunately, I looked up and down through all my parts. I couldn't find the right value. I need a 105 degree C temperature rated cap. at least 35 volts, 100 microfarads. I can only find this 47, but I bet it would still work. So here's what it sounds like. A little less bass. Because at 47 it is starting to roll the bass off. Yeah, this has the right pin spacing as well. All my other caps just would not work in that position. So I'm just gonna hope that this works. I'm sure it will. So let's check with the meter here, see what value it is. $46.42. Yeah, we'll run with this one and see if it fixes it. Okay, I put the new capacitor in there. I did not trim the leads yet, just in case it does not fix it. I want to be able to recover that capacitor. Got power hooked up and fixed it. Look at that. It works now. That did the trick. Another little tip for you. This is one of those double-sided boards, and it's very hard to desolder components. So I add some solder and heat it up and pull it out. But then the holes become plugged. So I use desoldering braid to clean it up as much as I can. Then I take a piece of solid copper wire, fairly thin or a fine gauge, and just poke it through the hole with heating it with the soldering iron, and it clears the solder out of the hole, allowing you to get the component in. Sometimes it's hard to do that with the leads because you're dealing with 2 leads at a time. But yeah, it's just a little tip that might help you. Okay, I got the Chino plastic snap together ballast cover back on there. Driver, I guess. And I hooked it back up. Hey, look at that. Great. I don't have to run out and buy a freaking light fixture now. Okay, so now I will clean this diffuser up and put it back on, and we're back in business. So that'll wrap this one up. Thanks for watching.